Action! Welcome back to Show and Tell, everyone. I'm Billie. I'm a knitter. If you're like me, you're probably watching lots of knitting podcasts or movies while you're knitting. Some years ago when I started this channel, I made it my mission to try and educate you through interviewing other knitters from around the world and to introduce you to patterns that you might not see elsewhere, mainly because they're from long, long ago. I also try to bring you footage from my adventures around my city, New York, or other places in the world where I go, and the museums that I go to. But it's always with an eye on knitting and fashion. As an engineer, I don't shy away from the mathematics involved in complicated patterns, but I'm also interested in design and fashion, particularly from the interwar years, the Art Deco period. All that to say, I hope you'll find Show and Tell a little bit different than the standard knitting videos, which are showing finished objects, whips, and acquisitions. Today I have no finished objects to show you. I have no acquisitions to show you, case in point. I do want to tell you about a little contest that I'm going to hold. The prizes will be some Rowan yarns, DK weight. I'll put the exact name on the screen, but more of that later on in the episode. Every year in late October, New York Sheep and Wool Festival takes place. You may start to hear people referring to it as Rhinebeck because it's held in the town of Rhinebeck. And for years now, people have been knitting what we call their Rhinebeck sweaters. There are some designers who come out with patterns specifically for that, and you'll see if you go, a lot of people wearing the same sweaters. That's never me. I'm always coming up with something that's a little bit different, usually vintage. So this year I am attempting to have this sweater completed in time for Rhinebeck. This is the front, the back. It's not knit in the round. They're flat pieces. I just have them on one very long circular needle. And the reason I've done this is I like to have them together, so I work the same pattern on the front as I do on the back. Just, blitz across a double long row. And also I have this basted up so I can try it on periodically. Since I last showed this to you, I have progressed from, now I'm beyond the underarm, so I'm on my way up. It is going to be a turtleneck. So I still have quite a bit of knitting to do on the body. But I have also knit both the sleeves. They're flat too. This one I've sewn up tentatively, just, with a piece of yarn, whip stitching it up, just so that I could try it on, make sure it was going to fit. The sleeves are probably not quite long enough. I'm trying to knit everything up, the body and then the sleeves, so that they'll all meet at the shoulders, because I'm really not sure where it's going to hit me. Usually I do a set-in sleeve, but since I'm designing this pattern and I wanted to make it easier on myself, I thought I would do a modified drop shoulder. So I don't exactly know how far down this shoulder is going to fall. Is it going to fall here? Is it going to be further down? So I don't know if my sleeve has to end here or if it has to come up further. Once I get closer up to the neck, I will try and baste the sleeves into place and see. I might only have a little bit more in that area, but it's a turtleneck, so there'll be a lot more knitting around here, and there's a special shoulder treatment that will have buttons, probably buttonholes. I don't think I want to do snaps. So I still do have some work to do on it. So part one of the contest is, will I be finished in time to wear this to Rhinebeck? That's part one. You'll have to get that answer correct in order to proceed to part two. And part 2 involves the amount of yarn. Now, if you go back a couple of episodes, I talked about not wanting to play yarn chicken. I really couldn't afford to do that this time because the yarn that I'm using, which comes on cones, is from the United Kingdom, a company called Color Mart. They use mill ends. They're sort of like remnants from commercial mills. So they sell their yarn at a pretty good price. This time I invested in 100% cashmere. I have ordered from them in the past, extra fine merino. I think that's it. I've ordered a bunch of different colors to do a 9-color Fair Isle, plus another sweater with a solid color. So I've ordered from them several times. But when I first decided to do the sweater, I chose these colors. They don't have an unlimited quantity, and it's not a color that they will repeat season to season. It's catch as catch can. So when I ordered a cone of each, they're 150 grams and 1,360 meters, which sounded like a lot. I thought I would have more than enough to knit this sweater, possibly on a size 1 needle. This is the thickness of the yarn, so it's fine. They call it heavy lace weight. So I thought, well, that would make a very delicate cashmere sweater. I've used a size 1 needle before. I was prepared for that, but when the yarn came in and I started swatching, actually my swatch is handy, so let me show it to you. Oh, no, you know what? I ripped out that swatch. When I started swatching with a size 1 needle, I didn't like the fabric at all. So I thought there's no point in tying up my yarn in that. I ripped it right out and I swatched again. And here I swatched a couple of different motifs and 2 different needle sizes. And I opted to go with this size needle, this size motif. Once I started knitting, oh, I forgot to say, I decided, since the yarn was so thin on a size 1, I decided to hold it double. So, double strand, which was a little bit of a nuisance because I had to wind some of it off onto bobbins so that I could have 2 strands. It was a little bit of extra work. But as I started to knit, it dawned on me that I simply might not have enough yarn, and I couldn't risk that. So even though it's cashmere, it wasn't super expensive, but it also wasn't inexpensive. But I bit the bullet and I bought 2 more cones. So I bought initially a cone of blue and a cone of white, and then I went back and I ordered another cone of blue and another cone of white. This time I asked them to wind it onto the cones for me with a double strand. Let me see if I can show you that. So there's 2 strands on both of these cones. Now, here's the contest question. This is how much yarn I have left right now. I'm going to show you the cones individually. You may want to go back to my previous video where I described how I weighed the yarn on a little digital scale to determine how much is left on these cones. I didn't do all 4 of them, but that was only partway through knitting the sweater. My question is, how much yarn will be left on each of these 4 cones when I am finished with the sweater? So remember, each cone started with 150 grams. I'm going to show you this angle and this diameter you could see. That's 1. This is the second one. Here's the third one. And the fourth one. You don't have to have them in the correct order, it doesn't matter. Just tell me each of the 4 cones, how much yarn will be left on them. You can do it in either grams or ounces. Remember, each started with 150 grams. If you want to know how to convert it to ounces, which you don't need to for this contest, that's also in my prior video. I did the math for you and I spelled it all out. So if you could label your answer, this is how much blue and this is how much white, I will offer 2 prizes. One for the person who comes closest to the blue, one for the person who comes closest to the white. So you have a couple of possibilities, couple ways of winning. But in all cases, you must say yes or no to, I will have my sweater finished in time for Rhinebeck. Okay. Speaking of Rhinebeck, who's planning to go? I look forward to meeting you there. Comment below and let me know if you're going overnight, if you're just going for the day Saturday, if you're just going for the day Sunday. Last year it fell on my birthday. That was fun. I felt carefree, abandoned to buy whatever yarn I chose. Unfortunately, I wasn't finding a lot of things that I really wanted. I did give the Kiviot a good look. Maybe this year I'll splurge on that, but you know me, I have to have a project in mind before I go buying yarn. Which brings me to my next project. I am looking ahead to what I will be working on, maybe before I even finish this, because I'm planning a knit along with some of you. If you haven't signed up yet, there's still time. So I'm going to leave a link in the show notes. Maybe I'll even, no, I won't be able to put it on the screen. It's going to be too complicated. There will be a link in the show notes where you can go and get a little more information and sign up. I'll put a picture here of the sweater that we're going to knit. It's a 1930s pattern. It's an original pattern, so it's not written in the same way that a contemporary pattern is written. And if you're not accustomed to that, this could be an interesting experience for you. That pattern is written for only one size, 37-inch bust. So part of the knit along, I will be guiding you on how to resize it, whether you're smaller or larger. The pattern calls for a yarn that gives 6.5 stitches to the inch, but since most of us will be sizing it up, you could use a yarn that's giving 5.5 or 6 stitches to the inch just as well. If you want something that's really very thin and delicate, then go with the 6.5 stitches to the inch. Most companies call that fingering, but it really varies from company to company. We're going to be starting in just about a week from now, so please hurry to reach out to me and let me know you're interested. We will meet over Zoom over a number of weeks until perhaps each of us has completed the project. The people who are knitting with a slightly heavier yarn may make a little faster progress than those who are knitting with fingering weight. But, I'll try and give an ample amount of time and really try and hold everybody's hand through this. The pattern will be provided to you before we get started. I almost forgot. Between the last time I podcast and now, I inadvertently pulled some of my stitches off the needle, and people have sometimes asked me, how do you pick up stitches if you drop them? How do you get them back on the needle? They're so tiny. So I put together a little video showing you how I do that. It will be a standalone video for people who only want to see that, but I'll include it here too, so you'll have it right now. For quite a while now, I've been waiting for an opportunity to show you how to pick up drop stitches. A lot of times when people see something that's on a size 2 or size 1 needle, they panic, oh, all these tiny little stitches. Well, I was just trying on my sweater to see how I'm progressing, and lo and behold, I pulled a whole mess of stitches off of the needle. Here's my needle in the middle of the row. So I thought I would use this opportunity to show you how I go about picking them back up. I can see already I'm not comfortable with doing it on this side as this is curling away from me. So let me flip this around. Because I'm on a circular needle, I'm just going to pull this needle around and approach my picking up from this angle. I'm going to go from right to left. Okay, in this case, it's a little bit trickier than usual because I have 2 colors going. But it's okay because it'll help me recognize the pattern. I happen to know that this row is 1 white and 4 blues. So it really doesn't matter if you pick them up in a way that they're mounted incorrectly. You just want to get them on the needle. Once they're on the needle, you can always remount them. And I'm knitting with a double strand, so as I'm picking them up, I have to make sure that I get both strands. If I don't, I can always rectify that later on. I just want to get these back on a needle. I know there's something wrong here, but I will get back to that as I knit through to that stitch. So you just look for these little loops. If you're knitting with a sticky yarn, they're not necessarily going to slip through and pull out unless you tug on them, but I was very careful once I knew that my needle was out to not dislodge anything. So you can see I'm just motoring right across. Let me slide those down a little. And just like when I knit, I am trying to keep the point of my needle pretty close to the stitches. Sometimes they line up for you and you can just go through a whole tube of them. Like, whoosh. I'm almost there. I see that I have a long float dangling here, so I'll have to fix that later on. There's a stitch that hasn't been knitted. It's most likely this white one. But again, I'll get that later. My goal right now is just to get everything back on before more of these pull out. See this white one? It's on the verge of pulling out like the previous white one. As long as I get some part of it, that's not perfect, but I will come back and perfect it on my next pass. Okay, I just have a few more stitches. The white ones seem to be harder because there's that float that wants to pull out. Again, that white one, I can see I split the yarn. Almost there. It's rather a test of endurance, but don't be intimidated by it. One more little stitch right there. Okay, I am back in business. Now I'm going to have to, let's see, where's my yarn? All right, so my yarn is coming from over here, which means the next place I would be knitting from is here. So I'm going to have to move all of these stitches onto the other needle to be at the beginning of my row. So here's how I do that. That's pretty quick and easy too. Just slide them off. Tip to tip. Oops. And you can get a rhythm going too. That goes pretty quickly. And now I am at the place where I would be able to purl back. My yarn is over here, ready for me to start this row. I'm pretty sure my next episode will be towards the end of the month. My husband and I will be celebrating our wedding anniversary, so I have some special wedding related things that will be in that episode, so keep a lookout for that. Of course, if you subscribe to my channel and hit the bell, you will get a notification when I'm coming out with a new video. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Victoria from the Big Apple Knitters Guild for including the interview of me in the recent City Pearls, the summer edition. Thank you, Victoria, and thank you, Maureen, also, because I know you had a hand in that. Some new people have been introduced to this channel, so welcome to those of you who recently subscribed. I look forward to many more knitting adventures with you. See you soon. Take care, everybody. Be well.